Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Jaya Radha Madhav Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jayom Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivraj, Jagacharya Ashtoratara Sri Srimad, His Divine Loving Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayom Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Parivraj, Jagacharya Ashtoratara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Jamuna Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Oh. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Madirayet Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, everybody. We are reading from the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter number 17, correct? Text number 1 through 18. I got it on my phone. 1 through 17, yeah, 1 through 17. So what we'll do is first off, I wanted to say thank you so much to all the devotees here for allowing me to speak and, being patient. And thank you to Nandavraja Prabhu for his kindness in asking me to speak. And thank you to Nishingarupa for also. It's really wonderful to be here in the Dallas Temple. It's my first time here. And I loved it. It's nice, I'm singing Radha Madhava, and I'm seeing that all the Radha Madhava pastimes are all here on the walls here. So it's this kind of transcendental experience to sing Jai Radha Madhava. So, and Maharaj said yesterday, when in doubt, use the bookmark. But bookmark's in the wrong place. What do you know? We're in chapter 16, not chapter 17. Oh, there's no 17th chapter in this book. Yeah. Second half. Finished with the first half of the third canto, Jai. I like to use my phone more anyways, so that's better. So what we'll do is we'll read the first verse, and then we'll do that like a normal Bhagavatam class, responsively. And then we will go to, I'll just read through another verse I found that was really significant, and then we'll go to the class. Is that okay? Nice. Okay, so, Matraya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhuvagitam Karanam Shankayo Jitaha Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukashaha Maitreya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhuvagitam Karanam Shankayo Jitaha Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukashaha Maitreya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhuvagitam Karanam Shankayo Jitaha Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukashaha. Please repeat. Maitreya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhuvagitam Karnam Shankayojita Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridiveya Divaukasha Nishamayatma Bhuvagitam Karnam Shankayojita Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukasha Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhavagitam Karnam Sankayojita Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukasha Maitreya Uvacha Nishamyatma Bhuvagitam Karnam Shankayojita Tata Sarve Nyavartanta Tridivaya Divaukasha. What are the synonyms now? Word for word. Maitreya. The sage Maitreya. Uvacha. Said. Nishamya. Upon hearing. Atmabhuva. By Brahma. Kitam. Explanation. Karanam. The cause. Shankaya. From fear. Ujitaha. Freed. Tata. Then. Sarve. All. Yavartanta. Returned. Tridivaya. To the heavenly planets. Diva Okashaha. The demigods. Who inhabited the higher planets. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sri Maitreya said, the demigods, the inhabitants of the higher planets, were freed from all fear upon hearing the cause of the darkness explained by Brahma, who was born from Vishnu. Thus they all returned to their respective planets. Please repeat. Sri Maitreya said, the demigods, the inhabitants of the higher planets, were freed from all fear upon hearing the cause of the darkness explained by Brahma, who was born from Vishnu. Thus they all returned to their respective planets. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The demigods, who are denizens of the higher planets, are also very much afraid of incidents such as the universe becoming dark, and so they consulted Brahma. This indicates that the quality of fear exists in every living entity in the material world. The four principal activities of material existence are eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. The fear element exists also in the demigods, on every planet, even in the higher planetary systems, including the moon and the sun, as well as on this earth. The same principles of animal life exist. Otherwise, why are the demigods also afraid of the darkness? The difference between the demigods and the ordinary living human beings is that the demigods approach authority, whereas the inhabitants of this earth defy authority. If people would only approach the authority, then every adverse condition in this universe could be rectified. Arjuna was also disturbed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, but he approached the authority, Krishna, and his problem was solved. The conclusive instruction of this incident is that we may be disturbed by some material condition, but if we approach the authority who can actually explain the matter, then our problem is solved. The demigods approached Brahma for the meaning of the disturbance, and after hearing from him, they were satisfied and returned home peacefully. Om Jnanatamarandhyasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vishubhana Shruti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namanen Namaste Saraswate Devi Gaudavani Pracharinen Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadesha Tarinin Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namaste Jivana Vedasa Vanachari Prabhupada Vallabhaya Sannasivamana Jnana Dvanta Kamana Pashchapati Jnana Guru Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. It's my greatest pleasure to speak about the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a little different format than I'm used to in Tucson Temple, so I'm happy to try it. I think it's actually quite wonderful that we're getting to see the Bhagavatam in a broader sense. So what we're seeing here in a sense...
If I may suggest, maybe give me a little context with somebody who maybe doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I was planning to do that. So what we're seeing here in the beautiful Bhagavatam is that there were two great demons who have taken birth, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So this is happening actually at the beginning of time, and this is the Bhagavatam. This fourth canto of the Bhagavatam is called the creation of the fourth order because the first order is Krishna creating Brahma, Brahma creating the Manus, and then Manu creating the dynasty of Uttanapad and Priyavrata, and then from that dynasty is the fourth order, which is existing. Here is so many different entities. Oh, we're in the third canto though. I'm sorry. I'm used to the fourth. I'm thinking we're in the fourth canto because I'm doing the fourth canto in Tucson. Okay. So fourth canto is called the status quo. Anyhow, third canto is called the status quo. What we're describing is that there's these demons that have been born at the beginning of time from these Prajapati entities. These are entities that are empowered by God to create population in the universe, to actually bring beings into existence that will then populate the universe according to the different species of life. So there were some inauspicious activities that took place in the beginning of these two children, and therefore two demons took birth. And these demons are not normal demons, they're exceptionally powerful demons because they're coming from the spiritual dimension as associates of the Lord so that the Lord can display His love for us by fighting with them and saving the universe. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita, Paritranaya sarunam vinashaya chaduskritam, that the Lord, He appears for three reasons. One of them is to protect the saintly people, and one of them is to destroy the demons or the miscreants. So this is a transcendental pastime that actually attracts us to the Lord, is to see how the Lord protects His devotees. So what is happening here is everything is being set up for the appearance of the Supreme Lord, and these demons have taken birth. And whenever a demon or a very dark personality takes birth, there are some inauspicious or very serious signs that take place within the world. And so this section of the Bhagavatam we're going to go over is describing the very inauspicious signs that have taken place in terms of, they say that there's so many different ones. We'll just read a little bit of them. Just some examples. In the interior of villages, she-jackals yelled, vomiting strong fire from their mouths. And jackals and owls also joined them with their cries. So a lot of inauspicious signs. Cows terrified yielded blood in place of milk. Clouds rained pus. The images of the gods in the temples shed tears. This is some scary stuff. And the trees fell down without a blast of wind. So this is a very, very intense demons. Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are generally considered the king of all demons. And they take a few births, but this is their highest power form. So we're seeing that all these bad signs taking place. And so then we have some themes we're going to go over in this class. And one of them is that fear, all the fear and all the suffering we experience in life is due to ignorance. And that's actually described by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that the cycle of karma begins at ignorance, avidya, and then it grows from there. So fear is due to ignorance, therefore knowledge is the solution to all fear. And then we're going to discuss, like we're discussing now, that natural disasters are indications of demoniac birth or demoniac activity in the world. And we see that in this world today, and we'll also discuss that. And one thing that is very prominent in this section of the Bhagavatam is that when children are begotten, there's a bona fide process that's scripturally allowed so that the living entities, the souls that are coming into the being, into the body, are auspicious, are wonderful, and have something to contribute to society in a positive light. And we're also going to discuss the contrasting values of demons and demigods. So these are all wonderful, wonderful topics. So just to connect them all, we can say that what do all these things have in common? And we can understand that these inauspicious signs and this fear, natural disasters, not knowing how to beget proper children, and the values of the demons, all these things stem from a misunderstanding of the goal of life. There's a verse in the Bhagavatam, very famous verse, Dharma swanushtita pumsam vishvakshena katashriha notpariyad yatiratim shrama eva kevalam. And this verse describes that all the activities in human life, Dharma swanushtita pumsam, if these activities don't produce attraction to the message of the personality of Godhead, that being the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, this message of love that Krishna is sending forth into the material world via his incarnations and his empowered representatives. If one is not attracted to that message by their occupation, by their duty, by their dharma in this world, then that activity is considered shrama eva hi kevalam. It's useless because it's not fulfilling the purpose of the material world. So we can look at the material world as a enclosed system, an enclosed system with a particular purpose. So, example that could be given is that someone doesn't go to a prison to enjoy. Someone doesn't go to a doctor or a dentist to take their wife or girlfriend out on a date. They don't go to the dentist. So the dentist has a particular purpose. The purpose of the dentist is to fix your teeth. And therefore the world, the material energy by which we live in, also has a particular purpose. And Krishna is describing that, or Sutta Goswami in the Bhagavatam is describing that which does not fulfill that purpose, which is actually to reestablish our connection with the personality of Godhead, that's considered shrama eva hi kevalam. It's useless. So we're playing this game in the material world, but we don't know the rules. And therefore everybody's walking around in ignorance under the control of the three modes of material nature. So the way we look at the world, the way we act in our life, and the reason that inauspicious things happen is because we're seeing everything in relativity to our goals. And this is true for everybody. And this is also reflecting the three modes of material nature. So your goal in life is going to affect the decisions and the choices you make. And those decisions and choices are going to affect the quality of your life. As well as the goal or the object of your life, the object of your desire is going to affect the quality of your thoughts. Good thoughts mean we're going to have a peaceful and happy life. So the general consensus amongst materialists who are in ignorance is that the goal of life is to have as much sense gratification as possible. How do I have the most stuff? How do I enjoy the most sense gratification, the most beautiful wife, the most big house, the biggest car? This is generally the context in which people are setting up their lives. So therefore, all of their activities become shrama eva kevalam. They become useless, and they become actually entangling. They become detrimental to their own spiritual growth. And therefore, even though they don't understand it, by their activities, they're lowering the quality of their life. So, therefore, the goal of life has to be recognized. And when the goal of life is not recognized, when one is acting in this way, they're incurring karma. So we've set up a situation by which we understand that because I'm acting, or because if I'm suffering because of ignorance, because I'm acting against the goal of life, now we have to understand what is the goal of life, how do I act in the goal of life, how do I actually perform devotional service. This brings up another verse in my mind, very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Yagyartha karmayon yatra lokoyam karmabandha tadartam karmakunteya mukta sangha samacharaha. This is a very beautiful verse. Krishna is describing that work in this material world, all of our activities have to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. They have to be done as a yajna. And this is in complete opposition to what we were describing in the previous verse, Shrama eva hi kevalam, that there's a useless aspect, useless labor, because we are ignorant of the goal of life. But by enlightened knowledge, the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand that work is done as an offering of love to God. And I was giving a class the other night in our Krishna Cove program. I was explaining that, you hear this like life, you hear these things, this term life hacks, ways to kind of make life easier. And so the greatest life hack is to understand this simple secret. Yagyartat kamayon yatra lokayam karmabandha. That all the work we do in this world, everything we do, should be done as an offering of love to God. An offering of sacrifice to God. And this is the most basic principle of bhakti, that we're doing whatever we're doing to please Krishna. And in that way, we're not lokayam karmabandha, we're not bound to the activities or the karma of this world, because it's this karma that binds us and that causes us suffering, pulls us down into the modes. So we have to be conscious of the goal of life at all moments. And this is what Krishna consciousness means, is it means we're becoming conscious of Krishna. And that means becoming conscious of not just Krishna, becoming conscious of what is his desire, what is his personality. And when you know, there's so many subtleties to bhakti, and this is kind of when you really dive into bhakti yoga, you can really explore so many subtleties that, okay, I'm chanting, and I'm doing service, but how am I doing service? And how is my attitude when I'm doing service? And what way am I doing service? And in this way, we're becoming conscious of Krishna. We're making progress in that way, and thinking, how can I please Krishna more by my attitude? Anyabilashita shunyam gyanam karmani navritam anukulena krishna narshilanam bhaktirutama. Rupa Goswami gives a definition of pure devotional service. He says pure devotional service is free from our material desires. So, sinful desires. Pure devotional service is not speculative. It's not on the mental platform. And it's not about merging into God. It's about having a relationship of love with God. We're doing this while following teachers, and we're doing it in a pleasing and affectionate mood toward Krishna. And that creates pure devotional service. And that pure devotional service relieves us of all the suffering. And this is not just an individual basis. This is on a societal basis also. And society is set up in such a way by God, if we're actually following scriptural injunctions, society is set up in a way by the Supreme Lord that if we're following the way the Lord wants society to be, that the world is fulfilling its purpose. Society is fulfilling a particular purpose. The kings, the Brahmins, the priests, the workers, the teachers, everybody who's doing anything in the world is working together to fulfill the purpose of each individual in the society, which is to become free of this ignorance. This is why we're in this material world. It's a reformatory unit of Krishna's kingdom to reestablish or to reawaken our Krishna consciousness. So this is the proper understanding by which we can perform devotional service. We're doing it in this affectionate, loving mood. And that's created when the leaders, when every activity is done in such a way that it's very pleasing to Krishna. So we can kind of go and explore how, because of ignorance of this fact, because people are ignorant of this simple message that we should perform all activities for Krishna, so many problems are occurring in our world, including many demoniac persons taking birth. So we see that there's this this situation in this verse that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are born very demoniac living entities. And this is described in the Bhagavatam, why demons are born. Because Krishna consciousness, there's a famous saying, you probably heard it. If you've been in ISKCON for some time, you've definitely heard some senior devotee maybe chastise you got to be conscious before you're Krishna conscious. So that's what we hear a lot. You got to be conscious before you're Krishna conscious. So we're waking up. Because most people are in deep ignorance. So we're waking up to the reality that is God's existence, or God's light in the material world, God's light on everything. So every activity, we're taking consciousness into it. There's intention, and there's awareness of this goal of life. And so in the process of begetting children, bringing children into this world is no different. One has to have this awareness of the goal of life. So we see that the father and mother of these demons, Diti and Kasapya, there was some lapse in consciousness that took place. They were kind of pushed by passion to have children at the wrong time, place, and circumstance, and they didn't go through the Garbhadan Samskara, which means they didn't consciously pray to the Lord to bring in a being of higher consciousness. Therefore, and because they were so powerful, Diti and Kasapya were such powerful living entities, the beings they brought into the earth were also very powerful, but of a demoniac nature. So this is simply because they were ignorant of, or they had a moment of ignorance. We can say they weren't ignorant, but they had a moment of ignorance, a lapse of consciousness of the goal of life. And therefore they acted in a way that was contradictory to service to Vishnu. Therefore we see that because they held a very high position in the cosmic hierarchy, the consequences were grave and severe for everybody who was under them. Because they were leaders, essentially, and they misused their free will, and therefore there were grave consequences, and these demons took birth. And we hear that, the purports, Prabhupada's explaining in these purports that demons and these inauspicious signs that we're reading about, so many inauspicious signs, and then we see in this world there's so many inauspicious signs. One of them is war, one of them is natural disaster, lack of resources, all these things we're facing. Prabhupada explains that these are all due to karmic reactions for inappropriate activities. So the very inappropriate activity of bringing these demons into the world is also causing so many natural disasters, inauspicious signs. So we see that in this world today. Why is all these bad things happening? Why does it seem that we can't have a peaceful existence on the earth? It's because the mass majority of people are ignorant of the goal of life. And we see that the types of beings that are being brought into the world are being brought into the world under the influence of intoxication, under the influence of drugs, under the influence of intense lust. And so the family, which is the basis of the world, the basis of society, is becoming lost. So people have to become enlightened about the goal of life. What is the goal of life? The goal of life is to please and serve Krishna and to become liberated from this suffering condition that we're in. So, and then we see, we can just go take out the natural disasters. Prabhupada gives a direct indication in that we see so many wars are happening because of the immense amount of cow slaughter. That we're slaughtering so many cows, we're putting so many living entities which are alive and conscious, and we're unconscious of Krishna's presence in these living entities. And therefore, the mass execution of these entities is creating a karmic imbalance, and that's causing war, pestilence, famine, so many sufferings that we're experiencing. So we have, as Krishna conscious devotees, we should really feel enlivened, like me and Prabhu were speaking last night, we should feel enlivened about giving people this knowledge by which they can become freed. Individually, an individual is the basis of a society. So if you have a society of rotten individuals, you're going to have a rotten society, no matter how wonderful your rules are. If you have a society of wonderful individuals, you're going to have a wonderful society. And everything will become beautiful or wonderful in society. In that same verse I quoted, the Dharmasvanushita Pumsam, about useless labor, in the purport, Prabhupada gives an example. He talks about overpopulation, which actually they were talking about even in the 50s when Prabhupada was writing this. early 50s, late 50s, early 60s is the first canto. So they were still talking about overpopulation, saying that they're not going to have, world's going to be overpopulated very soon. So Prabhupada explains overpopulation is a gross misunderstanding, because the earth can support a lot of people, but it can't support a lot of people living like demons. Earth can support a lot of people if we had a nice vegetarian diet, we weren't using so much land, water, and resources to raise cows. So much energy is going into sense gratification. So much oil, so much power, so much energy is going into weaponry because of fear. And why do we fear? Fear is a direct result of ignorance of Krishna. Because the first teaching of Krishna is Natvevaham jatu nasvam natvam nimijana nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve viyamataparam. That never was there a time when we didn't exist. So an enlightened person understands I'm an individual living entity, therefore they don't fear death. And as an eternal individual living entity, that changes my goal of life a little bit. This is basic stuff. First teachings of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, but if we can just understand this, that I am the soul, I'm part and parcel of Krishna, my purpose is to serve Krishna. If we can simply understand this, then it really changes our whole look on fear. Actually, devotees, we do have fear. It's not to say that we don't have fear. Fear is actually natural, but our fear is that we should fear losing Krishna consciousness. I know that my greatest fear is a Vaishnava aparad, to offend the devotees of the Lord, because that's very, very bad for your spiritual life. So we should have some fear of that I'm fearing Vaishnava aparad, I'm fearing making offenses. I'm fearing, for the Krishna consciousness movement, I'm trying to protect it and trying to protect devotees. And we should have that type of consciousness. That's bona fide fear. Just like Mother Yashoda, she was always scared for Krishna. When Krishna was in the hoods of the Kaliya serpent, she was terrified for Krishna's sake. So that's natural. The fear is natural, but it should be in relation to Krishna, not in relation to what most people are scared of. Is they're scared of losing their facility for eating, sleeping, mating, and therefore they're fighting and they're defending and they're warring each other because of the various facilities for eating, sleeping, and mating. Either if you take a step back and you look at the bigger picture of things, you see that that's true. So we have to understand what are the values of a Krishna conscious person. What do we value? Materialists, they value having so many different things, stuff. They value material. They value ego, false ego. They value fame, profit, adoration, distinction. So Krishna conscious devotee, we strive to actually, those aren't our values. We strive to cultivate Krishna conscious values. Actually, we were discussing one of the themes in this verse is the values of the demons. So basically, Krishna has this whole chapter that's describing this in the Bhagavad Gita, demoniac versus enlightened living entities. But describing the qualities of the demons, but these qualities are a result of a misunderstanding of values. What is it you value? A devotee values his relationship with God, he values his relationship with devotees, he values quality life, he values helping others in their spiritual life. Whereas a materialist or someone who's influenced by demoniac propaganda, demoniac energy, the darker modes of material nature, their values are different. Their values are, how can I become higher than the other guy? Right? Numero uno, how do I become the highest person? How do I have control? How do I have power? And this is actually a result of fear. And why there's fear? Because there's ignorance of the personality of Godhead. So we value different things based on fear, based on our quality of life. And generally fear and love are given as opposites. That to the degree we love, to that degree we don't really fear in the material sense. So one kind of logical principle is that there's no such thing as opposites. There's just varying degrees of the same. Like there's no such thing as cold. There's just varying degrees of heat. So in the same way, there's no such thing as fear. There's just varying degrees of love, and this fear is varying degrees of ignorance. of knowledge, sorry. So these demons, they're fearing losing that which is giving them pleasure, because they can't understand that there's a higher pleasure in God consciousness. There's a higher happiness in our relationship with God, and that they don't know the process for attaining that. So therefore they value things in a different way. They value sense enjoyment because they're not experiencing a higher taste. They're not experiencing the joy of giving someone spiritual life. They're not experiencing the joy of doing a beautiful kirtan. They're experiencing lower pleasures, and therefore they value that. And therefore they're fearing losing that, because why? This is temporary pleasure. Our pleasure is not on the temporary platform. Krishna conscious means eternal happiness. It's based on the eternal platform. You never get tired of chanting Hare Krishna. The demons, they're fearing, all their pleasures that they're cultivating in life are temporary, including their life itself. So they're fearing all the time. So we kind of went through most of the themes here, and I can just say the last point, and then we can have some discussion. Is that there's a need to understand this and to act in this and to do this properly. It always comes down to surrender. Because we might not be able to experience the higher taste of Krishna consciousness right away, but we can have faith in someone who is, and by surrendering to them, by surrendering to a guru, by surrendering to the devotees in the process of Krishna consciousness, and by intellectually understanding, by hearing, like you're hearing right now, this knowledge, by intellectually hearing and understanding, okay, I can understand that everything is temporary in this world, that there's not so much pleasure. I can understand this intellectually. How do I bring this from an intellectual to an experiential thing? Well, okay, I see that you're actually experiencing this, so I'm going to follow this process. And I'm going to value things differently. I'm going to change my values in life from sense gratification to spiritual awakening. So there's a serious need for surrender and for doing what we're doing right now, cultivating this knowledge. Because by cultivating this knowledge and surrendering to the goal of this knowledge, we are better establishing that goal. Prabhupada actually said once, he said that neophyte devotee means one who becomes distracted. Now we're distracted by this and that, and we're into so many different things, but actually we should keep our eye on the goal. No matter what ashram or what circumstance we're in, what's the goal of our process? It's not to become, to be called Maharaj and get so much fame, profit, adoration, distinction. It's to love Krishna, to have a loving relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. That's our goal. And we should always keep that in mind. And we do that, we understand that by constantly hearing from Srila Prabhupada, reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you get to see that this is the goal of life and that this is a goal that I want. So the better we can have focus comes from hearing and chanting nicely. The more we have that focus, the more we're going to advance in our Krishna consciousness. So, it's 8:23, and I was told to go to 8:30, right? So good, yeah, questions and comments, yeah. If there's any nice questions or comments, criticisms. I was happy I didn't have to give class when Hridayananda Maharaj was in the room.
Prabhu, I was really appreciating this point of fear and how it's different for different people. And I was imagining that, like for instance, it said that people would rather die than publicly speak. Like if you see people's greatest fear above dying is speaking in public. And that, however, that when your filter gets shifted, that energy, it changes also. So with this fear, or sometimes we have anxiety about stuff, because those things are important to us. But the more we become knowledgeable, we can understand the reason why is I'm feeling this is because I'm excited. I want to serve Krishna. And so then we can adjust the way we're looking at things instead of letting it control us, that we are using it for the service of Krishna. And so this is the devotee's goal, is to use everything in Krishna's service. How do I use fear in Krishna's service? How do I use anxiety in Krishna's service? How do I use, anyways, whatever Krishna's giving to me, I'm looking to see how to adjust it so it can become favorable for the service of Krishna. So I was really appreciating your discussion on fear and your point of views on fear. Thank you.
Prabhupada was asked once about, some devotee said, I have an anxiety. Prabhupada said, good, it's ecstatic. So this is Krishna anxiety. Krishna anxiety. So this Krishna anxiety is good. I think Balaram Prabhu can kind of attest. I'm very anxious a lot, actually, because I'm at the temple running around and doing so many, especially on Thursday. This is my Thursday. First time in a long time I'm not at the temple on Thursday, which is my big day. I'm doing so much service that day. So I feel anxiety all day to get it done. But that's a type of, it's a type of bliss to feel anxiety for Krishna.
It's similarly around festivals, big festivals here. You can feel it. A few days before, that energy's building and building and building, and the excitement of that anxiety that this big festival. Yeah.
So thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your comment. Anything else? You have anything?
Yeah, I appreciated how Prabhupada is making this cool point of that, like, even in the heavenly planets there's fear and stuff, and I was just reflecting that, kind of like whatever situation of life you're in, whether you have nothing or you have everything, it's like if you have everything, then you're afraid of losing it, or you're afraid of this and that. So I thought it's nice to get a reminder that, fear is just a part of being in the material world, and no matter where you go in the material world, you can't really escape it.
Yeah, we have to situate ourselves in Krishna consciousness. And even then, there's still fear. It's just like Prabhu was saying, it's just a different type of fear. We should, actually it's good for our sadhana to actually develop a type of Krishna conscious fear. That we should fear Vaishnava aparad, we should fear making offenses, we should fear for the sake of Krishna's devotees. This is actually a type of developing attachment and transferring that fear from fear for myself to fear for Krishna, to fear for... Mother Yashoda was terrified when Krishna was in the hoods of the Kaliya serpent. So there is fear in the spiritual world in that sense, or in Krishna Leela. So the difference is that even up to the heavenly planets, there's a type of material fear. There's a fear for, I'm scared for losing what I have, but I never really had it. So when you have knowledge, when you understand Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat, that the Lord is the controller, owner of everything, animate and inanimate in this world. That's Krishna's property. And when we understand that, we can become peaceful. Famous verse, Bhoktaram yagitapasa sarvalokameshvaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatamam shantim richyati. That understanding, when we actually analyze it, that's such a beautiful verse, and you just analyze it real quick. That everything we're doing, actually, whether we're serving Maya or we're serving Krishna, we're doing austerities for Maya all the time. People are getting up so early so they can make millions of dollars for sense gratification. Devotees are getting up so early so they can go to the Artik, chant Hare Krishna, become spiritually enlightened, and go make millions of dollars for Krishna. So austerity is happening either way, whether you're serving Krishna in the form of Maya or Krishna in the form of Krishna. There's still austerity. But all those austerities are done for Krishna. When we're conscious of this fact, when we know, Gyatvamam, when we know that this is Krishna, that we're doing this for Krishna, then we can become peaceful with our austerities, with all of our, sometimes a big austerity is that we are taking on anxiety of managers, of raising children, whatever it may be. We're taking anxiety on for this service. We're not going to avoid it. That's just not going to happen. And what? Krishna is the controller, Maheshwaram. He's the controller of all this. So everything that's happening to you is actually designed by Krishna. Whether it's done by the process of karma and it's just, you get what you get because you did that, or if when you're a surrendered devotee and you're conscious, now these things are happening to you because Krishna is doing it so that you can come back to the spiritual world. So we can understand, even if there's so much anxiety, it's Krishna actually. Krishna is this anxiety. He's causing this, and it's for my purification. And therefore we can become peaceful because we know, we're aware of the goal of life. And most beautiful thing is, he's our friend. Suridam sarvabhutanam. If he's our friend, that means that even though he's causing us some anxiety, surit means that he's our actual well-wisher. It's not just like like Bandhu, like we're just friends. He's well-wishing us. Therefore, He's willing to put us in some anxiety for our eternal benefit. And if we're aware of that, then I know this is you, Krishna. I'm doing all this for you. It's so hard, but I know it's you. I know this is for my betterment. And I'm thankful. And I know that I'm going to see you in the end because of this. Getamam shantam richiti. I become very peaceful. And the world will become peaceful if each individual understands that. Nice point. We're at 8:30, so unless anybody has any other burning questions or nice comments, we can end. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I really appreciate, anytime I'm able to speak about Krishna or try to just coming here has been wonderful, and going on Harinam yesterday, distributing books, and just trying to be a source of encouragement and in that way get encouraged myself. And thank you so much for taking Darnell, who is very dear to us in Tucson, and we really just want him to become Krishna conscious as much as possible, more than he already is. And we know that you're such a wonderful facility here, and Krishna is empowering you so much. All of you devotees are so empowered and so wonderful, and it's just my prayer that you bless that we can take some of this energy back to Tucson. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.